evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
Okay. 2 disclaimers before we get into this. 1, we like to have discussion with listeners and followers of the show. We are willing to have a very long conversation with our listeners and followers on the rise of Skywalker. If you're on being a troll or a dick, we will block the comments. But we would still like to hear you. We still like to hear constructive criticism, whether you liked it or not. Either way. Star Wars fans seem to forget that people are actually at the other end of the camera. And so I'm just reminding people to be nice in the comments.
Right.
2, this is going to be a spoiler-ish discussion review.
Okay.
Josh and I will sit down for the Rebel Files and have a full discussion about meaning of things and a lot of different stuff like that. But Janice and I are going to just do a review, and I don't know if we can really do a proper review without doing a little bit of spoiler talk in here. We're not going to spoil everything, but to have an overall discussion of the movie, we're going to probably
we will
spill
probably
some stuff.
bring up some stuff. Yeah.
Some stuff. So, with all that being said, welcome to the Pop Culture Cult, and welcome to our spoiler-filled review of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to start this one.
Okay.
I was obnoxiously nervous about going into this movie because a lot of the people that I follow and listen and talk to via online services really disliked this movie. Like, with a passion of 1,000 suns, disliked this movie. So I was very nervous when I was seeing some of the first reviews coming out. And from my point of view, this is everything I wanted from the last of the Skywalker saga.
Yes.
Thanks for listening and watching our review. I think that's everything we need to say. I'm just very much struggling with what people are saying about the problems with this movie. There's some things that I can totally get behind. It's very fast. It's on purpose. There's a ton of stuff to cover.
Right.
It makes a lot. I get that criticism. I get some criticism that, Rose doesn't get enough time. I'm totally okay with that. The movie was an hour and 45 minutes, hour and 40 minutes, whatever it was.
Dominic Monaghan did not get enough time.
Didn't get enough time, and that kind of stuff. A couple of characters kind of got done dirty, like going out like a punk. I only because I really like.
You think that was punky?
I'm not happy with the way Snap went out.
I know, really that's who I'm talking about.
Because he's one of my favorite characters in the new canon books.
But it happens.
It totally happens within warfare, and I'm totally okay with that. The complaint that people had about Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi not having the hero's death is kind of where I feel like he should have gone out. Taken out a tower, but that's a criticism. That's a stupid criticism from my point of view. But this movie hits everything that I wanted. I got all the nostalgia. I got closure on a ton of stories, but not all of them, because that's Star Wars. That you're not going to get answers for every story, and they're going to bring up new questions as you go along.
Right. It's life too. You don't get all the answers.
And it looks pretty, and it's amazingly acted by Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver. Adam Driver is having a year, guys.
Yeah.
And I like the way they handled Leia, and I like the way they handled C-3PO, and C-3PO had all the best lines in this one, and the first thing I posted on social media when I walked out the door was grinning end to ear, beyond satisfied.
Yep.
We've seen the movie twice. I want to go see it again. It is everything that I wanted.
Yep.
Now you go.
No, now it's my turn.
Now it's your turn. Because I will not breathe for 15 minutes straight.
I know. Exactly what you said. I mean, if you haven't been watching the show, I went and saw A New Hope before it was ever called A New Hope. It was just Star Wars in the movie theater. I was 10 years old. I stood in line with all the other 10-year-olds and went and saw this movie when it first came out. So I've had a connection my entire life with Star Wars, with the Skywalker saga, which kind of makes me a little sad to think that it's over. But I agree. I was happy they wrapped some stuff up. Yes, there was fan service. There is nothing wrong with fan service.
Nope.
Stop saying that
Nope,
like it's a
not a
bad
bad thing.
I am interested in the people who hated it. I would be interested to know what their favorite Star Wars movie is, because all of them have issues.
Yes.
And
Yes.
A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, if those movies came out today, even somewhat updated but the same story, you would hate that too. The only
Yeah.
reason that you love those old movies is because you have some emotional connection to them. I hate Ewoks.
With a passion of a thousand
Yeah,
suns.
stop muppeting my Star Wars. That's, but I don't hate people who love that movie.
Right.
I didn't like the last one. I had a lot of problems with the last one, and none of it had anything to do with Luke's death, or how it happened.
Right.
There was, his irreverence to his lightsaber, which they actually make fun of in this movie,
Yeah.
which I thought was hysterical, and just some of the beats just really missed it with me. But I don't hate people for liking that movie.
Right.
That would be awkward because my husband liked that movie.
I like that movie. I came around on it, but that movie Last Jedi is very much an intellectual movie as a Star Wars fan. Like, you really have to do a deep dive in both the lore of Star Wars and the lore within Star Wars and what they're trying to say and do and
maybe
coming to
that's
terms
what
with that.
Because Rian Johnson has said that he is really into
Yeah.
the lore, and so
Yeah.
maybe that's the problem with the movie, is that it just misses for those of us who haven't read every
Right,
single
right,
comment
right.
and watched all the cartoons and all of that.
And I think that that some of the criticism for this movie that people have been saying is they retconned a lot of stuff from The Last Jedi. I'm sorry, you're completely wrong. Your opinion of a thing is not wrong, but your interpretation of what they were doing is completely wrong. And I just feel like a lot of people. My one issue with Star Wars fans is they all think that Star Wars is theirs, and that if it's not done in the way that they want it to be done, then it's a failure. And I think that that's kind of a failed fulfilling prophecy. Like, you're always going to fail into that process.
Yeah.
But for what this movie did to me emotionally, ethically, like, I've been struggling with a story arc. There was a time in this movie at the end where Rey, we're not gonna spoil everything, but when Rey turns on a lightsaber at the very end, and I realized that me, a middle-age white male, wants to be Rey. And not because she's a girl or that she has power or whatever. It's just her journey and like what she did. And I've been struggling with that feeling for several days, like to a point where like I need to write it down and get it out of my head, because what she's able to do in this movie and also in the trilogy as a whole was inspiring to me.
Yeah.
And what happens with Kylo, and what happens with Finn and Poe and Chewie, and like these are the new characters that I have fallen for, and I've always been very like I identify as Han and that kind of scoundrel, kind of do the wrong thing, but for the right reasons kind of thing. But I've always wanted to be a Jedi, and so I have a Jedi robe. I'm a weirdo. And I have a lightsaber because I want the right one. But the story allows people like me to sit there and accept and remember and love all the things that we've loved from the first 6 movies and then the 2 tangent movies, and then love and accept and everything that happened in this new trilogy, and wrap a bow on it.
Yeah.
And wrap a nice bow on it.
Yeah.
Not big. I mean, there's a big party at the end, but it's not the big George Lucas comes in the 17th version of his movie and does the big galactic thing, but yet, things are still out there. They still have to figure out, like, I was so happy with how they handled every beat, story arc, like everything in this movie hit me exactly where I wanted it to be.
Yeah, I didn't, again, there wasn't any Luke being irreverent and throwing his lightsaber over his shoulder or milking whale cow things.
Right.
There weren't any of those in this movie. There was no point when I was like, oh, don't do that, and then they did it.
Right.
Or I really wish you had done this and they didn't do it. Right. There was none of that. I liked it all.
Yeah, I liked it all. I liked the comedy. I want to talk about just for a minute before, because I don't want to do a 4-hour review on this. I do want to do a 4-hour review with this, but Janice is not going to let me
Josh,
do it.
not
Josh,
me.
Josh and I will do. Before we get into the actors, I do want to say that the 2 of us and Josh's wife went to the Thursday night showing, not the fan event one, but the one an hour later. Mm-hmm. We sat in the middle of the Dolby Theater, and we got really good center of the theater seats. And I really feel like we were the only ones who were laughing and screaming at the screen and standing up and applauding at points. And like, I think we were the only ones that were really interacting with the movie. Good, bad, or indifferent, what that is, what that is for other people's movie-going experience. But for my movie-going experience, if something that amazing is going on, I'm going to stand up and clap. And I'm okay with that. The actors, Oscar Isaac is just amazing. Like, I don't have to say anything more. And I love John Boyega. He's amazing. He was cool, whatever. But the acting that Daisy Ridley did and how she could embrace and fight against the dark to stay in the light, and how she was able to express that with both her physicalness, her facial expressions, and everything was so well done. Mm-hmm. And her journey as an actress from a really unknown in Force Awakens to here, and seeing how she's grown in an actor and everything, I was just so impressed by what she did in this movie.
Yes.
However, Adam Driver is the best actor that we've ever had in a Star Wars movie. He's probably one of the front runners for leading man and for Oscar nominations for Wedding Story. We haven't watched Wedding Story yet, but
Marriage Story.
Marriage Story. But that seems to be the consensus going around as he's in the conversation. But what he does in this movie, specifically, we said it was going to be spoilers. Specifically, the remembering his father's scene, and his anguish in his face, and realizing that he made the wrong decision the first time around, and then going through this again and watching it like wash over him when he does do what he should have done the first time. Like the second time we saw it, like I was crying, like I never had a great relationship with my father, and so father-son scenes always grab me really hard.
They do.
And this one really grabbed me. Like, it really got a hold of me.
Yeah. Which is what an actor should do, is
and-
make you feel an emotion.
Yes, yes, and I just thought that what he was able to bring to this role, and specifically this movie, was just next level stuff.
Yeah. Yes. I'm agreeing with you.
Usually we have a back and forth because like I have a one like kind of version. I see things a little bit differently than she does, obviously. But like as soon as we walked out of the theater, like she would say something, I would say yes, and then this, and then she would say
all
yes.
four
like,
of us
like all four of us were,
Yeah. Like,
Or-
I mean, there were. You guys have some questions because of the more in depth.
right.
I didn't. I think they wrapped up the Skywalker saga nicely. You know, we have closure to all of that, and you know, would it be cool to maybe see more? Sure, but I'm okay with them. Yes, there'll be more Star Wars, right? There's Mandalorian, and
Yes,
you know,
we got other, and they've got a date set for 2022.
right. But there's a bunch of stuff happening on Disney
Yeah.
with from Rogue One.
The Cassian Andor
Cassian,
story,
yeah.
which we're calling Rogue .5 until they tell us differently. Sweet baby Kevin.
Oh, I did have one criticism. There is not enough Dio in this movie.
That's not-
He was adorable.
and Bubba Frick.
Yeah, Bubba Frick.
But-
Yeah,
but-
yes,
yeah.
the little
Little
whatever.
droid
Yes.
black market, like the two of them
Yes.
on a
We
kids
decided
show.
they need to make a Disney Plus show
Yeah,
about the two of
we're
them.
gonna just make all the Disney Plus shows about
Yeah.
Star Wars, which is totally okay with me. But I not a big spoiler here. This is one of my top 5 favorite movies of the year. And for as nervous as I was going into it, to get everything I wanted was satisfying, and I'm gonna watch the shit out of this movie.
Yeah, and one thing I was saying when we were kind of decompressing or whatever after watching it was, I think that a lot of people are just spoiled with Marvel because, you know, when George Lucas made Star Wars, they never ever thought that it would be what it is today, and
Right.
at least Marvel has had some sort of a track, you know, going from and probably not even in the beginning. I think it was a couple movies in before they were like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
this is where we need to go, and trying to get it there. Star Wars has never been like that. And so when you went and saw Endgame last year and people were just
That was in May.
bawling and standing and applauding and
That
all
was
of that.
May.
Huh?
That was May.
Of this year?
Yeah.
Was it? No, it wasn't.
Yes,
it was
it
like
was.
5 years ago. All right, whatever. But people went and saw Endgame.
In May.
Of
April. It was end of April.
2018.
Jesus freaking Christ.
You know, that was like a super satisfying ending.
Right.
And this is probably not quite so satisfying just because it's been this kind of journey.
And I think I was actually thinking about this early on. I think the only reason the Endgame is a slightly more satisfying than Rise of Skywalker is it was 23 movies over 10 years.
Over 10 years instead of or 9 movies over 42
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's and so there. I think it's just a little just by math. There's been more Marvel movies than there's been Star Wars movies,
and
so,
it's more condensed, and you feel like you've been on this journey with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as much as I've been on the journey with Star Wars, I was a very late bloomer to Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so but it was still very satisfying to me and everything.
Yes.
So
Yep.
Overall, very much loved this movie. Skua
4.5.
475.
We either love it, we hate it, or it's a 3.5. This would be on the love side.
I'm not kidding. It's probably in my top 5 movies.
Yeah, it's probably in mine too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got to write these down.
Yeah.
so we can do our
85 movies so far this year.
year-end.
So that is our thoughts on The Rise of Skywalker. Like we said, Josh and I will eventually get down to doing the deep dive on everything that happens in this movie. There won't be much going on for the next 2 weeks because of the holidays and stuff like that. But we'll figure stuff out. And we will make sure everybody knows that we're doing a deep dive on Star Wars. So with that, we actually ask you to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, follow us on all the social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, all those links are in the description. If you're going to leave a comment, be nice. It's okay to have criticism of the movie. Just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
I have a delete button, and I'm not afraid to use it. It screams, "Ee! Ee!" Happy holidays, and if we don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And may the Force be with you always.